Hey y'all, today we're making some shepherd's pie soup. Okay, so you're going to need whatever kind of soup or stew or chili pot that you use. Mine, I promise it's clean, y'all. Y'all know everything I own is crusty. Don't worry about it. So anyway, you're going to add about a pound of ground beef. And you're going to let that brown up, okay? Go ahead and just brown that ground beef. And I know, y'all, that traditional shepherd's pie is made with lamb, and that if I make it with ground beef, I'm supposed to call it cottage pie, but I don't. I have called it shepherd's pie my whole life, and that's what I'm going to continue to call it. So if I'm wrong, sorry. Don't come for me. So y'all let me know, do y'all make yours with lamb or ground beef when you make shepherd's pie? Or do you make shepherd's pie? Have you ever made it? If you hadn't, it's really good. So what you're going to need to do, like I said, is brown up your ground beef. Once your meat is all nice and browned, and yes, you could use ground turkey if you wanted to. Use whatever you want to. So brown it up. Once it's done, you're going to need to drain it. Now leave it over there draining, and then bring your pot back over here. Everything's going in one pot, so we're not going to worry that we have a little bit of ground beef still in the bottom of this pot. It's going to be fine. Add you in there 3 tablespoons of butter. Let that melt up real good. And then we're going to need to cook our onions. Okay, we're going to cook our onions because we don't want crunchy onions in our soup. So we're going to cook those down in that butter, okay? Now, I had some onions that I already had diced up. A lot of times if I get a big bag of onions, I'll come home and dice them up and just stick a couple of bags over in the freezer. And that way, if I'm in a hurry, and I kind of was this night, and this is a really quick soup. I mean, I'm going to show you all the shortcuts for this soup. But, you know, my onion was already ready. I didn't even have to stop and cut one up. So, but if you have to cut one, just cut one. It'll be all right. But you need about an onion, and then just put that in there with your butter and let that cook until your onions are nice and soft, okay? Once your onions get soft, you're going to add in there 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, okay? 1/4 cup, add it in there and stir it and make sure it mixes in real good. And you're going to let that cook for 2, 3, 4 minutes, just until you get that raw flour cooked out of there. And it's going to look a little bit gummy. Don't worry about it. It's going to be just fine. So once you've cooked that around for a few minutes, you're going to whisk in 4 cups of chicken broth. Now, if you have homemade chicken broth, that would be fantastic. I didn't have any. I need to get some more made and get it in the freezer. But I didn't have any, so I'm using a big old box of chicken broth. But you need 4 cups, however you get it, and whatever kind you use, you need 4 cups of it. So just slowly add that in there until you've gotten all of your chicken broth stirred in. You know, just make sure you don't have any clumps. You want this to be nice and creamy. Is it creamy? It's not creamy yet, but you want it to be smooth. That's the word I was looking for. All right, now we're going to season it up just a little bit. And we're going to add in about a tablespoon or so of Worcestershire sauce. If you like a lot, add a little more. If you don't like quite so much, don't add quite so much. Then you're going to add in a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm adding a little more salt than maybe I normally would just because I have that low sodium chicken broth. And then I'm going to add in some garlic powder and some onion powder. So I think I cut the onion powder out, but you know, who knows? Who edits these videos? It's me. Sorry, y'all. But anyway, garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, Worcestershire. Now you need some mashed potatoes, and y'all do not come for me about these buttery home style mashed potatoes, instant mashed potatoes. If you want to make them homemade, you make them homemade. But I like these when I'm in a pinch and I don't feel like making homemade. And again, remember I told y'all shortcuts? This is the shortcut we're taking. And don't think it's not going to taste good. Them buttery potatoes are fantastic. Now I can't vouch for the other flavors of those, but those buttery home style, magnificent. So you're going to make those according to your package directions, or make them homemade if you want to. Then you're going to, and that was a family pack, by the way, so if you use the family pack, use 1 pack. If you use the smaller packs, you're going to need 2. Make them according to the package directions, and then you want to whisk those in there really good until you get all the clumps out of your, mashed potatoes. You want them to mix in really smooth. I was going to use my immersion blender, but my whisk worked just fine, my big girl whisk. So then you're going to add in 1 cup of heavy whipping cream and 1 cup of milk. If you don't have heavy whipping cream, add in 2 cups of milk if you want to. Use half and half if you want to, but you need 2 cups of whatever it is that you're using, okay? I just like the half and half because it just makes it even more creamy. But you can already see how thick this is getting from those potatoes. And look, y'all, if you've never had shepherd's pie, you need to find your recipe and make it. My recipe is super, super simple, so I've never shared it with y'all. Maybe I will one day, but it's one of my favorite things, so I knew I had to make this soup. So once you've gotten your potatoes and your milks all mixed in, go ahead and add back your ground beef, and then we're going to add in some vegetables. Now, if you don't like vegetables, if you don't do vegetables in your shepherd's pie, you don't have to add these. This is about a cup of frozen peas and carrots and about a cup of frozen corn. And another thing, if you don't like the texture of frozen vegetables, because to be perfectly honest, I'm not the biggest fan of frozen vegetables, only because I like my vegetables soft, and I feel like they don't get super, super soft. They still have a little bit of a bite, and the flavor is great. But if you have an issue with some sort of a texture thing, just make sure you're okay with frozen vegetables if you're going to use them in something like this, okay? So stir everything in, get it all stirred up real good, and then I let mine come to a boil, and then I put the lid on it, cut it down to a simmer, put the lid on it, and I let it simmer for an hour. Okay, you can let it go a little bit longer, but you're going to need to stir it every 10 minutes or so just to make sure that because it's so creamy, you don't want it to be sticking to the bottom of your pot, okay? So once your hour is up and you're about ready to eat this stuff, you're going to take your lid off, turn your fire off, and then you're going to add in about 2 cups of shredded cheese. I'm using Colby Jack, I think. You can use regular cheddar. Whatever you have will work just fine. You're just going to add that in there, and then, like I said, we've turned the stove off, so you're just going to stir your cheese into the soup until all of your cheese has melted, okay? That's all we're doing at this point is just melting the cheese, and look how thick it is, y'all. I'm telling you, if you like potato soup, you're going to love this. If you like shepherd's pie, you're going to love this. So good. So, so good. I can't rave about it enough. This is another one of those recipes I wish I'd have made years ago, right? But anyway, 1 pot, simple ingredients. I mean, it was so quick to throw together, y'all. So anyway, this is it. Shepherd's pie soup. Make sure that you make this. If you make it, let me know down in the comments. If you make it a different way, let me know that too so I can try your way. But that is all I've got for y'all today, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.